All right, so next up, we're going to be installing the actual app itself and the launcher. So let's go ahead and do the prerequisites first. So this requires Microsoft v C++ redistributable. And so we'll just Google that, or what are we on, Bing here? So we'll go to the Microsoft site, and let's scroll down to download the latest one. And so I've already downloaded this, but this is basically required. Again, this is Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable, version 14 in this case. There might be something new by the time you download this, but uh, we'll just head over to downloads. I'll just install the one I got earlier. It's the same thing, and you guys will have a fresh download or install link or whatever here. All right, great. Setup successful. So that's all that's needed right there. Now we're going to head over and get the Sapphire installer. So I'm going to go back over to the GitHub here, and I linked to it somewhere in the setup here. So I'm just scrolling down. I can hear the computer screaming at me. All right, and it says download the Sapphire Launcher. This is just called the Sapphire Launcher, and that's the actual installer as well. So let's head over to releases. And you'll notice here's a Sapphire Launcher.exe. Um, Windows usually gives a security, whatever this is. So we'll have to click the dot 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 and click keep. It's like, hey, are you sure you trust this? I don't know. If you guys don't trust me, don't run it. But this is software that I made. So instead of delete, I'm gonna click the drop down and go to keep anyway. And from there, we should just be able to open Sapphire Launcher now. Hey, look at that. And so here's our launcher. This is all the things that we do and do not have installed right now. So right when we get in here, we're going to do a few things. First of all, we're going to check the installation directory. This should be your username. I'm just fish as my username. And this will install the fish and then the Sapphire directory inside the fish account. So this is the fish home folder, and then the Sapphire directory in here. And whenever we're ready to install, you can install one of two versions. We have the stable version or the development version. I mean, it is what it says it is. Stable is the one that you want to use if you want a stable product. Development, we're working on that one, and it's always the continuous one that we're always working on new stuff in. So, if you're using development, you need to back up more. I would recommend if you're new, use stable. If you really want to be part of the testing team and be part of the community, try the development because that's what most of us are on. But for right here, all you got to do now, this is going to install a few things here. We just click go. So the whole installer is automatic. It'll go through and install all of the main important parts, including, and let's just click yes here. This includes Git and Miniconda. It does not include that Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable. So you have to do that one separately. I'll probably bring that one over to the installer. So maybe by the time you all use it, maybe I'll have that in here. But anyway, that step is easy though. So Git and Miniconda were the ones that people seem to get tripped up on the easiest. So this computer right now is just going through the whole install process. Um, while this is going, I'll make some notes of what's happening here. Uh, Git is being installed using a program that comes with Windows 11 called winget. And winget basically, think of it like the App Store, but for the command line. It's almost like Windows Store a little bit, it feels like, except it has different apps on there. For Linux users, we would just call it apt-get or the app repository or something, or whatever distro you're on. But yeah, for Windows, we now have a program called winget, and you can just open it up and see if you have that. We just open up the start menu. I forgot what the start menu is called for a second. And then we'll just go to terminal. Um, Terminal opens up a PowerShell by default, but you could switch it down to a command prompt if you want. Terminal is the same thing as the old command line. This opens up in nicer fonts, and it lets you have tabs, and it lets you open up both command line and PowerShell, and a few other things. You'll see WSL if you're using that in here. But you should have a program called winget, and if you just type in winget at your command line, it should just tell you how to use winget and stuff like that. You don't really need to use it or know how to use it in this install. Just that if you're having trouble during this process, make sure you have that because that is what these first two things are using. So when it checks for Git and Miniconda, Git lets you download Sapphire, and Miniconda lets you basically, I mean, people here probably know what a virtual machine is. Miniconda is kind of that, but for Python environments. So when you install Python, there's all these like different like dependencies and packages you need and all sorts of complicated stuff that interacts. We use Miniconda to set that up in a little isolated segment. And when it's set up in the isolated segment, it's not going to mess up the whole system. You know, the system uses Python sometimes, depending on what you're doing with your system. But so we don't want to mess up the whole system, and that's what Miniconda does. It creates this little tiny, kind of like a virtual machine, but for Python. Totally inaccurate to call it that, and anybody here who knows computers is going to make fun of me, and I deserve it. Um, anyway. So after it does get in Miniconda, it's going to initialize Conda, and what that means is basically lets you run it from the command line. So if we were to close out of here and open up a new terminal, anytime you install something new, you kind of have to open up a new terminal. But what we're looking for here is specifically Conda. I think it's in command prompt. It might be in PowerShell. I'm just going to open up a command prompt window here and wait for it to do whatever. There we go. Okay. So if I just type in Conda here, now that it's installed through the Sapphire installer, I should see, hey, yep, here's all the Conda help document. So when I ran Conda, it responded here. I don't know if it does it with PowerShell. Let me just type that in here. Um, it's taking a pause, so I bet it'll work actually. It's because the system is probably maxed out because we're doing a bunch of other stuff on the system. Okay, so conda is not recognized in PowerShell. It is in command line though, so you really don't need to use conda very often. But the Sapphire installer does install it on command line. And you could always, what we call conda initialize on PowerShell. But for now, I guess use command line if you want. Um, and so anyway, that was kind of me rambling while it's installing. Minimize out of there, hop back over here. So we got everything green here. Yeah, green check marks, green plus icons. I don't know why it's not a check mark. Maybe I didn't think that through thoroughly. But they're all green, so that's great. And we see done is also highlighted there, and it says Sapphire's ready. Hit launch. And let's just come down here and we'll check this log file that came out here. So uh, I'm just looking for anything that would say error. We don't really care too much about warning. Warnings pretty common. I see a bunch of those warnings. So I don't see any big red errors. I mean, I just see downloading and warnings, and that's usually okay. So that means it probably went fine. So at this point, what we'll do, the Sapphire Launcher doesn't just install it; it also launches it. Obviously, that's why it's called the launcher. So we're just going to launch it right there. We'll scroll to the bottom there. And whenever you launch it, it takes you over to the log tab. The log this is Sapphire's startup log. Oh, okay. So it's a good thing I did this on a new system. This is Windows firewall, basically saying, do you want this app to be able to access the internet? Now, this won't really matter because you're local. So if you were just using this locally, I don't think this actually influences it. Even if you're talking to localhost, which is your current computer, of course. This will matter though if you're trying to get, let's say, Sapphire running on a phone. It doesn't run on a phone, but you run it on the computer and that starts a website, and then you can pull Sapphire's web UI up on your phone, and you can actually access the app through there. It's not an app on the phone. I should stress that it's not a native Python app or a native Android app. It's just a website you can pull up on the phone. But that's exactly what we're doing on the computer here anyway. So I just went ahead and hit allow. And what that's going to do is start up the Sapphire app. And I'm just going to hit bottom. So we go to the bottom of the log file here. And we'll notice Sapphire is now active. So at this point, all we got to do is open browser.